So Doug Ford just rolled out new energy rules in Ontario, and the Greens are absolutely losing it. But here's the kicker, they're not mad because Ford forgot to recycle. They're mad because apparently, we're all about to get walloped with higher electricity bills while Ford plays monopoly with gas plants and nuclear power. And spoiler alert, you're not the banker in this game. You're the sad little top hat getting taxed every time you pass go. Welcome back to Canadian Insights, where we break down the political chaos so you don't have to read 17 policy documents before your morning coffee. Let's dive into why Mike Schreiner thinks your electricity bill is about to become as inflated as a politician's campaign promises. Alright, let's set the stage. The Ontario Green Party just came out swinging against Doug Ford's shiny new energy rules, and they're not pulling punches. Mike Schreiner, the Green Party leader who basically makes it his full-time job to call out Ford's decisions, dropped a statement that might as well have been written in all caps. He's claiming that Ford's government is doubling down on expensive gas and nuclear plants while everyday Ontarians and small businesses get stuck with the bill. And when I say stuck with the bill, I don't mean like when your friend conveniently forgets their wallet at brunch. I mean stuck like gum on a subway seat, permanent, annoying, and somehow always your problem. Ford's team says these new rules are all about affordability. The Greens? They're saying that's about as believable as someone claiming they read the terms and conditions. According to Schreiner, Ford is ramping up reliance on US-connected gas and nuclear energy instead of cheaper renewable options, and is doing it in a way that makes Ontarians pay for the privilege. Because nothing says we care about your wallet like making you fund energy choices you never asked for, right? Now, here's where it gets spicy. These new rules come courtesy of Bill 40, which sounds innocent enough until you realize what it actually does. Essentially, Bill 40 allows electricity and natural gas companies to pass on higher costs from Buy Canadian procurement policies directly to customers through their energy bills. So if a utility company decides to avoid certain foreign suppliers and go with more expensive Canadian options, guess who pays the difference? Ding ding ding. You do. Congratulations, you've just won the lottery of involuntary expenses. This policy actually builds on something introduced earlier under Bill 5, which already started laying the groundwork for these cost pass-throughs. The Ontario Energy Board gets to decide whether and how those costs land on customers, but let's be real, when has a regulatory board ever said, you know what? Let's just eat these costs ourselves and not pass them along? Yeah, that's what I thought. The utilities and industry groups are backing these rules, which makes sense because they're the ones who get to shift the financial burden while still looking patriotic for buying Canadian. It's like charging someone extra for maple syrup because you decided regular syrup wasn't Canadian enough, except instead of pancakes, it's your hydro bill, and instead of a choice, it's. Mike Schreiner is not here for any of this. In an interview with Canada's National Observer, he made it crystal clear that Ontarians didn't ask for these procurement changes, so why should they pay for them? And honestly, fair question. It's like if your roommate decided to renovate the kitchen without asking you and then handed you half the bill. Except your roommate is the provincial government, the kitchen is the entire energy grid, and you don't even get new countertops out of the deal. Schreiner argues that Ford is essentially rigging the system to favor gas plants and nuclear power over low-cost renewables. And when he says rigging, he's not talking about a friendly game of cards. He's talking about a system that structurally advantages expensive energy sources while making cheaper, cleaner options less competitive. It's like hosting a race where some runners get sports cars and others get tricycles, then acting surprised when the sports cars win. Renewables, according to the Greens, are getting the tricycle treatment, and gas and nuclear are cruising in Teslas, ironically powered by electricity that could have been cheaper if we'd just invested in renewables in the first place. And here's the thing, Schreiner's not just throwing shade for fun. He's pointing out that this approach hits individuals, families, and small businesses the hardest. Big corporations with cushioned budgets? They'll survive. But your local bakery or that single parent trying to keep the lights on? They're the ones who feel it when electricity bills spike. Ford's messaging is all about making life affordable, but Schreiner's basically calling that messaging a magic trick, lots of distraction, very little substance. Let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this means in the bigger picture. Ontario's energy policy has been a political hot potato for years. Every government that comes in promises to fix it, make it cheaper, make it greener, make it whatever voters want to hear. But then reality hits, and we end up with decisions that feel more about political optics and industry lobbying than actual affordability or sustainability. Ford's government says nuclear and gas are necessary for reliable energy. The Greens say renewables are cheaper and better for the planet. And meanwhile, regular Ontarians are just trying to figure out why their hydro bill looks like a car payment. The Buy Canadian angle adds another layer. On the surface, supporting Canadian suppliers sounds great. Who doesn't want to support local industry? But when that support comes with a mandatory price tag that customers don't get to opt out of, it starts feeling less like patriotism and more like a fee you didn't sign up for. It's the energy equivalent of being auto-enrolled in a subscription service and then finding out cancellation requires a blood oath and a notarized letter to the Premier. And let's talk about the U.S. reliance piece. Schreiner specifically mentioned that Ford's approach leans on U.S.-reliant gas, which is a fascinating critique given that Buy Canadian is supposed to reduce foreign dependence. So we're avoiding some foreign suppliers while depending on others, and somehow that's supposed to make sense? It's like saying you're going on a diet but you're only cutting out salads. The logic isn't quite logic, King. Here's the question that keeps popping up: who actually benefits from this? Because if everyday Ontarians are paying more, and the Greens are saying the system is rigged toward expensive energy sources, then someone, somewhere, is coming out ahead. Spoiler, it's probably not you. Gas plant operators and nuclear contractors are likely thrilled. Industry groups that lobbied for these rules? Also thrilled. But families trying to budget for groceries and electricity in the same month? Less thrilled. Schreiner's framing this as a fairness issue, and it's hard to argue with that. If the government makes a policy choice that increases costs, shouldn't the government absorb those costs or at least give people a say? Instead, the bill just quietly gets passed along to consumers, who probably didn't even know Bill 40 existed until their hydro statement looked like a ransom note. That's not transparency. That's not affordability. That's just expensive with extra steps. So what happens now? Well, the Ontario Energy Board will be the one deciding how these extra costs get distributed, which means public consultations, regulatory hearings, and a whole lot of bureaucratic back and forth that most people won't follow because, let's be honest, we're all busy. But that's exactly how policies like this slide through, by being complicated enough that regular folks don't have the time or energy to fight them. The Greens are making noise about it, which is their job, but whether that noise translates into actual policy change is another story. Ford's government isn't backing down, and why would they? They've got the support of utilities and industry groups, and they are framing this as smart, strategic energy planning. The Greens are calling it expensive and unfair. And the rest of us? We're just waiting to see how much our next electricity bill is going to hurt. At the end of the day, Ontario's energy policy is a mess of competing interests, political spin, and bills that keep climbing. The Greens want renewables, Ford wants gas and nuclear, and everyone wants affordability, but affordability seems to be the one thing nobody's actually delivering. So keep an eye on your hydro bill, folks. It might just become the most expensive souvenir from this policy debate. If you want more breakdowns of Canadian political chaos delivered with just the right amount of sarcasm, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. We post multiple times a day because Canadian politics never sleeps, and neither do we. Drop a comment and let me know what you think. Are the Greens right, or is Ford playing four-dimensional chess we just don't understand yet? I'll see you in the next one.